let my lessons be a lesson to you all. All right, so in this video, we're going to switch it up. I'm going to be standing. You may be asking, Zazo, why are you standing? To be honest, I'm just feeling different. All right, so today I'm going to be talking about how I accidentally became a data analyst. You may be asking, Zazo, how does one just accidentally become a data analyst or something of that nature? I'm gonna get into that. So in order to get into that, I'm going to take you back to the roots where I grew up. Not where I grew up, but how I grew up. I don't know if you noticed, but I'm a little Asian, right? My mom is Chinese and Cambodian, and I primarily lived with her for, I would say, most of the years that I actually remember, and my stepdad. So mom Asian, stepdad African American. We lived in a predominantly black neighborhood. I don't know why I said African American before. Black neighborhood. And in our household, it was very lawyer, doctor. Those are my two options as a little Asian boy. Keep in mind, I'm not full Asian. I'm also Puerto Rican and black. That is my biological father's half. Anyways, I grew up not having a computer in the house or anything of that nature. I think the only thing I had was a game system. So me and my stepdad used to play games, NCAA and Madden and those types of things. Other than that, there was no real technology in the house. I didn't really have a phone. Actually, I did. I had a Boost Mobile clickety-clack get back phone. So I didn't have any fancy technology or anything like that. However, I think the lack of having technology is really where my love for technology came. So after growing up in that household, not really exposed to technology, in high school, my senior year of high school, I took a web development course. And it was just like any other course. It was an elective course, and I didn't think too much of it. But I did think it was pretty cool how, with a couple keystrokes and some tag-looking things, that I could make something that could live on the internet for as long as I wanted it to. So fast forward a little bit, I'm shooting basketball at a random church parking lot that just so happened to have a basketball hoop there. And a stranger comes up to me and asks, "Hey, do you know anything about computers?" And I said, "Oh, why, yes, I do." Cap. I didn't know anything about computers, not really, but he wanted to make a website, and I said, I'm going to go ahead and take this risk. Not a risk I recommend taking, by the way. So he invited me over to his house to show him what I could do on the computer. So not a good idea. Next day, went to his house, basically pulled up this ugly HTML website, coded it up, did a little CSS, a little inline CSS at the time, and whipped up a little website. Yeah. Me and the guy became cool over the years. But anyways, that's when I kind of piqued my interest. Like, maybe software engineering is my route. Maybe whatever people, which I didn't know at the time, I didn't know what a software engineer was. That's how removed from like technology I was. I didn't know that these type of people existed. That might sound really crazy, but I didn't. So how much is a software engineer? I know you're probably thinking, Zazo, hold on. It's supposed to be about data analytics. I'm getting there. So I looked up software engineering and I said, oh, they make money. Perfect. I like this stuff. They make money. Perfect combination. So I start learning code and I eventually learn how to code to a decent degree, but that's all I learned how to do. I never practiced GitHub. I never practiced any of those smaller things that you need. Say smaller things, important things, not GitHub, but Git and learning the command line. And I was just doing website stuff and I was doing static website stuff and switching from language to language. Either way, we're going to fast forward. I'm working in a call center and I apply for a software quality assurance engineer. That's right. My first tech job. Apply, went in for the interview, sat down. They asked me about Selenium and if I've used Selenium. I guess somewhere on the application I knew what Selenium was because I guess I Googled it and I was like, oh, and they asked me to use it to do a small little thing, or how would I design some type of test using Selenium to do a specific thing with a website. And I didn't know how to do it. So while I'm being out there, I failed. I basically got that email that says, hey, you suck. And we decided to go with somebody who actually knows what they're doing. Reasonably so. That was my first mistake. So what did I do the next time? I went and Googled my ass off and went in for the same company, different team, same role. And then I eventually got that position. I brought in my laptop, my MacBook Pro, which I still have right here. This same MacBook Pro that I have right here. I walked into that office and I answered the questions. And then I took a risk because the first time I played it pretty safe. All right. I didn't say much. I just tried to answer the questions. But right as, they're saying, do you have any questions? They didn't ask about my MacBook. Look how this thing's falling apart, right? They didn't ask anything about what I did here or why'd I even bring it. So I made an executive decision, okay? And I said, I've done some projects. Would you mind looking at them? Or can I show you my projects? I was interviewing with the director at the time, and that's not normal. Normally, it's just the hiring manager, maybe another manager or somebody on the team or multiple people on the team. And I showed some of the projects. They weren't on GitHub. They weren't on anything. They were just locally on my MacBook Pro, the same one you're seeing here. That's like 13 years old. I don't know how old it is. But basically, that was it. There was a little bit of head nodding. There was some positive stuff, but they didn't really comment on the fact that I did anything or anything like that. And they just casually let me leave without anything. Didn't say anything. So I'm waiting. And didn't hear anything back. So I'm like, all right, another one bites the dust. I'm gonna keep trying. But it was like a month later, and they were like, I remember getting the call. At this time, I was making like $13 an hour at the call center. Keep in mind, he makes a call. I pick up the phone. He's like, yeah, we would like to offer you the position. I said, what? I said, of course I want the position. He's like, are you still interested? Blah, 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 blah. He goes, we're going to start you off at $24.95 or some crazy shit like that. And he goes, this is the funny part. He goes, is that okay? And I said, hell yeah, that's okay. No, I didn't say that. In my mind, I'm like, yeah, it's almost double what I'm making right now. I thought I was making a bank with $13 an hour. But he was like, is that all right? And I said, that sounds great to me. When do I start? So anyways, I get into that role. I do my thing. That was a little long-winded. Anyways. Story time, whatever. Do my thing, right? I get better. So I start automating some of the testing and it starts to stand out. Then a software engineering role comes up. Guess what I do? I apply for it. Guess what happens? I got rejected. Because once again, I went in there a little bit, I didn't prepare so much. So I went in there, got denied, whatever. And I went back about my day a couple months later. Another position comes up. Software engineer. Guess what I do? Apply again. This time, I got hired. So now I'm in software engineering. And this is what I dreamed of. This is the role that I wanted to be in. So I'm doing my work, I'm doing everything. And then I realized, let me start, once I get the hang of how things are done, let me start to expand. So I start making little scripts and things because we did some spreadsheet work, it was a mixture between on-call and like development. So the on-call stuff, we had to do different things and write different queries and stuff based on Excel sheets that we would get from different teams. So I said, I'm going to start learning Python because at that time I had researched that it's good for automating tasks like this. So I started doing little Python scripts, taking Excel, and we had to write queries to update stuff in a database manually at the time for like some of our on-call stuff. So I had different sections of code that would take the stuff from the spreadsheets, write a SQL query, and then we would just plug it and run it and fix whatever we needed to fix. Simple enough. I showed this to one of the leads on my team and I was like, look what I've created. And she told me, stop making Mickey Mouse programs. And I said, "Geh." This really hit me because I had just learned like was in my dream role, the role I thought I wanted to be in. And I was doing something that I thought would be very, improving what we were doing. And what I realized is it wasn't appreciated. And matter of fact, it was looked down on. So at this point, I kind of knew that the culture of the team and what I kind of stood for and what that team stood for was not going to mesh well. So I started to self-reflect and think internally about, okay, well, maybe this isn't for me. What else do I like? I've always liked business, even as a wee little lad. All right, I've always liked business. So I said, what is something that I can kind of do technical work, but also be a vital part of the business or be a part of making business decisions? So what I do, I went to Google where those roles, you had business analysts, you had a bunch of other things. I said, data analyst seems like it would be the perfect mix. And I said, what kind of field would I want to work in? It was either financial or marketing. Those are two things that I find very interesting. So I actually applied for a business data analyst, specifically with business metrics, so more financial metrics. And I just realized this. I've been rejected from every job that I've applied for the first time while being in tech. So don't get discouraged. All right. I went in there. They asked me a simple question. How would you know there's a product on sale? How would you know if that sale was like successful or not? I said, okay. And I think I said something, I will try to over-explain, which I tend to do, but the answer was ROI, okay? Return on investment. I don't know what the question was exactly. It was something to that effect. So I got rejected. Go on and fast forward a little bit more time. I apply again, not to that role, but for a different role, marketing analytics. So more about customers. And like I said, this is where I didn't have Tableau experience, Power BI. I literally had SQL knowledge, I would say, and I didn't even have my degree. I was required to have a bachelor's degree. Did not have it at that time. But anyways, I applied for the position and I reached out to the hiring manager and I said, I would really be interested in this position. Is there anything I need to know beforehand? And he said a whole bunch of stuff. So I went and looked up all that stuff, got a very high level knowledge, but I didn't know SQL. And what I realized throughout that whole interview is it wasn't because I was the strongest candidate. I didn't know the most SQL. Although I was decent, I didn't know Tableau. I really didn't know anything about marketing at that point, other than like seeing ads and that kind of thing. But like anything like ROAS and multi-click attribution and all these different mumbo jumbo marketing stuff, I didn't know anything about it. But the thing I could do is I was able to tie my personal life with marketing. And how I did that is my wife owned a cookie business, which I was a part of, and I helped her kind of run. And I spoke to the fact of, because I knew what the position was, is seeing where our customers lied and what was our target demographic for these sweet treats. So fast forward a little bit down the line, I think it was 2-3 weeks later, I actually had COVID when I got the news that I got that position. And I actually took a pay cut to be there. But now I'm a senior data analyst, getting paid more than what I was at that previous role of software engineer. So everything worked out in the end. This is a little story time, but if you take anything away from it, you should take away, it's okay to fail. I failed 3 times. I say 3 times. I failed way more than 3 times. But when it comes to jobs, I failed 3 times. So for each job I failed, I literally got rejected every single time for every single role at least once. So this shows you anything. Keep trying. Don't be afraid to fail. Apply even if you're not ready. And just do good things, right? Do your research, work hard, put in that time and effort, and eventually it'll pay off. If I would have quit at the first software quality assurance job, I probably would have never became a software engineer because I would have thought it was too hard or I wasn't qualified. So let my lessons be a lesson to you all, and just keep grinding, keep learning, keep building. Love, peace, and chicken grease.